Welcome back, and in this lecture, I'm going to use Java Intro to demonstrate the way we create threads and run the threads to establish particular tasks inside Java. And let's just create a new project. I'm going to create a new project. This one is threads creating threads demo. Okay, creating threads demo. Okay, and inside this project, in order to demonstrate about threads, I'm going to create a new class which is called a student class. And let's just assume this student is able to do two tasks. This student is able to do two tasks, and the first task is public void to study. Okay, to study. Okay, and for this one, normally in order to demonstrate the parallel processing of the thread, I'm going to ask the student to do the study task in a very long time. Okay, this is long task. Okay, time-taking task. So I'm going to make a for loops of one up until 10,000. Okay, 10,000 times displaying outside there. I am studying, and I'm going to put some hyphens here for me to differentiate between this text and some other text later on. Another one which is public void to listen to music. Okay, then this student is able to do this task too. So it's going to be a long task as well, and I'm going to show this one as also 10,000 times displaying that I am listening to music, and I'm gonna put some asterisk here. It's just the same idea, which is later on when they display many lines, I want to know that one is the studying task or that one is the listen to music task. Okay, so normally if you add the students, if you create a student s3, you go to new student. Okay, you go to new student and you ask student to study first. Okay, dot to study. Okay, then you ask the student to listen to music. This one is called sequential execution. So for sure, this second task, which is to listen to music, are going to wait for this first task, which is to study, to complete first before executing the second task, which is to listen to music. So this one is called sequential execution. So let's just execute. You see, it's gonna show I'm studying first. Okay, then all of them going to be listening to music. This one is sequential execution, and you already seen. And right now, in order in order for our main object of our main class here to tell the student here to not just execute it to in sequential manner, but we're going to do the studying and you're going to do the listening to the music at the same time, alternatively, as I already explained in the theory section. It's not really same time, but it's alternatively, but it's not sequential because it's not going to wait for this one to complete before starting this one. Okay, so let's just use the first way of creating a thread in order to demonstrate this one. Okay, so let's just create first thread, this one. So I'm going to create the first thread, which is study thread. Okay, in order to create a thread, for the first way you need to the first way to create a thread, which is you need to extend the thread class. Okay, you need to extend the thread class. And what is a thread class? What is a thread class? A thread is to establish a particular task. Okay, and that's why we need to define the lines of code. This thread need to be executed, to be executed by this thread. And in order to specify that one, you're going to override the method, which is the method run. Okay, and inside this method run, you would like the student to do the study inside here. So again, you create a thread to establish a particular task, and that particular task that you would like to do is to ask the student to study. So you need to specify that study method inside the run. So you need to have the student inside here as well. You need to have the students inside here as study. So we're going to declare private students, and inside here I'm going to create a constructor. Okay, in order to pass that student inside our thread. Okay, in order to pass that student inside our thread. Why do we need to pass that student inside our thread? Because we have a student inside the main, and we need to pass it inside our thread. Why do we need to pass inside our thread? Because you need to establish, or you need to tell the students to do its task, which is to study. Okay, within this thread, or you can say it's when this study thread is executed, it's going to call the method run, and when it's called the method run, it's going to ask the students to study. Okay, it's going to ask the students to study. That's why you need this one. So this one is the way you create a thread class. This is the way you create a thread class. Okay, this is the way you create a thread class. Similarly, you can create another thread class in order to another thread class in order to ask the student to do another task, which is to listen to music. So I'm going to say music thread. For this music thread, in order to create, it's going to extend the thread class as well. It's also need to override a method. That one is a method run of the thread. Okay, it's the method run of the thread. Why again? Because the thread is to establish some particular tasks in parallel, and this one we would like the student to do its task, which is to listen to music here. That's why you need that student inside here. So I'm going to declare private student std, and you need to create a constructor to pass that student inside the thread in order to execute its methods. So from here you ask the student to listen to music, okay, to listen to music. Okay, so and these are the class threads for thread class for listen to music. This is thread class for studying, and we are going to make use of that one inside here. So instead of running them sequentially, I'm going to tell the student to study and to listen to the music at the same time. So inside here, I'm going to create the threads. Okay, study threads equal to new study threads. Okay, and I need to pass in that students. This one is to create a threading object. Okay, and another one is threads, music threads equal to new music threads. Okay, music thread, and I'm passing in that student too. Okay, so the students is passed into this thread. The student object is passed into this thread. So this student's object is passed into this study thread. Okay, is passed into that study thread. Okay, and it is assigned to student object. And when this thread is executed, it's going to call the method run. It's going to call to that study method of the students there. Okay. And when you create a new object, of the thread, is not executed yet. Okay, this one is not executed yet. So in order to tell it to ready to be executed, you need to call to the start method of the thread, music thread start method. And when you call this one, it's ready to run. It doesn't mean it's gonna be executed automatically. Either study thread or music thread will be executed first. It's depending on the scheduler inside the computer, but they won't be ready. However, if you just create a new object and you don't call to this one, it will never get started. Okay, and you'll see this one, the two threads are running. Okay, I'm calling to the study thread first, then I'm calling to the listen to the music threads. But when we run this one, you'll see sometimes we studying, sometimes we listen to the music. Okay, not both at the same time, but alternatively. Okay, of course, not both at the same time, but alternatively. Sometimes you see, sometimes you're studying, sometimes you do music, sometimes studying, sometimes you do music, sometimes studying, sometimes music. Okay, not absolutely one at a time, but okay, you take time, not absolutely both at the same time, but you take turns. Okay, but it's not sequential because you're saying here both at the same time. You see studying here, you see music here. So this one is what it means about threading, and that one is the first way for you to create new threads. Okay, and you can have another way to create that the new threads in this way. So in this one, if you use old programming languages, you need to pass in the word finder here in order for you to pass an object from outside into from a method into a thread. Okay, from a method into a thread, you need to put that one as finder. Okay, there is another way there is another way to create threads and run the threads this way without creating this class or this class like this. Okay, you don't need to create this class. So there is another way to create a new threads. Okay, so I'm gonna make it here as well to compare with this. I have the student object and I can create inline threads over here by implementing the runnable interface. So I'm gonna create the threads, study threads equal to new threads. So I'm creating the abstract class threads inside here. And in order to create this thread, again, thread is to execute a particular task. And in order to define that particular task, you need to specify what do you want to execute. In this case, we want to execute the student study method. And in this case, you're going to pass in a new runnable object. And runnable is an interface. Okay, that's why when you implement it, you need to implement this runnable interface, and that runnable interface specify a method run. Okay, and inside this run, I'm taking directly the student to study. So I don't have to pass the student into the thread because the thread is in the same scope with that student. So this internal code block is able to access to the outer variables over here. See, so I have the advantage is have direct access to this student object without having to pass it. And this one is inline. I can create a thread by creating a new thread object in here. In order to create new thread object, you need to pass in. The an object which is runnable. Okay, I need to pass in an object which is runnable. Object in this runnable object is place for me to define a method run, which means for me to define what task to be executed if this thread is to be executed. Similarly, I'm going to create another thread which is music thread equal to new threads. Okay, equal to new threads, and inside here you can create new runnable interface again. Okay, new runnable interface. Okay, enter, and inside here I'm going to override the method run, and if you run the music thread, you're going to take the students again to listen to music. And similar to the two lines creating of them here, but right now you don't have to write the class for music thread and study threads anymore. You use them directly, use the thread class directly. And if you would like to run them, you're going to use study thread.start, and you're going to use mix thread.start. Okay, and if you run them, your computer is going to execute both of the tasks at the same time. You want to say alternatively. See, so that one is what it means about threading. Again, threads is it is smallest unit of executable tasks. It can be executed independently. It has its own memory and processing resources in order to execute. And inside that thread normally is to establish some particular task or normally execute several lines of code or one method here. Okay, and this task like study thread and music thread now can be executed in parallel. Talking of them at running in parallel, but it's not absolutely parallel. They are taking turns in order to execute, but it's different from sequential execution, which is going to wait for one task to completely complete it first before running another task. Okay, and in next few lectures, I'm going to demonstrate about thread priority, then thread states, then methods of working with threads, and also daemon threads, so on and so forth. Thread synchronization as well. Okay, but mainly you have to be able to create a new threads and execute it. Okay, and execute it so that they can be executed in parallel. Okay.